Hey, what's going on, role players? It's the Bard here, and welcome back to the corner. So today's video is a follow-on from one I made just recently called Grapplers Need More Hugs, and it's addressing a few little mistakes that I made because, unbeknownst to me, for the longest time, unarmed strikes are actually considered to be melee weapon attacks. But Bard, you've been playing this game for years, you've been making videos on it for ages, how could you not know this? Well, apparently I'm not the only one. It is a big source of debate over the internet. So a big thanks then to everyone who commented on the previous video to help point out and clarify the things I was missing. But again, like I said, a lot of people seem to have been mistaken on the subject. Even Big Daddy Crawford himself had to come on and say, this is what it is. So now, armed with this new knowledge that I have, I want to address a few little mistakes that I made in that previous video. They're only tiny errors, and they're not actually as bad as I initially thought it was when I researched it. I thought, oh my god, I've given out a whole ton of misinformation. And then I rewatched the video back, and it really wasn't as terrible as I thought it was. It just needs a couple of little tweaks. So I'm just going to go ahead and address those, and with that out of the way, I'd like to revisit my grappler and just see if there's anything else that I could potentially do to it to improve based on this new knowledge. And then finally, we'll have a little look at the revelation that I had as a result of all the information I've now been given. So what did I say, and what is it that I want to address? We'll pick a few pieces out from that last video, and then I'll just go over them just to clarify based on what I now know. The list is pretty limited, and you have to be careful even when multiclassing, because so many options require you to make a weapon attack, whereas unarmed attacks are something very different. So, was I wrong here? Well, I think this graphic pretty much says it all. Unarmed strikes are weapon attacks, but they are not weapons, which will come up later. Alright, what's next? The final part of Rage gives you a bonus to damage, however it's only on weapon damage rolls, so we're not going to get it for our unarmed attacks. That was the one bit that really needed addressing, because we actually do get the rage damage, and I actually couldn't be happier to be so wrong. It's that awkward little phrase again rearing its head, melee weapon attack. So I had this explained to me through feats such as Savage Attacker or abilities like Divine Smite. They interact strangely with weapon damage, and so therefore you don't really get their benefit. Likewise, there are certain things that actually require you to have a weapon, and that's the only reason why they work. Divine Smite, for example. Next, if you're grappling from the start, you just get the 3 damage. If you're attacking with your unarmed strikes, you get your strength plus a d8 roll. Or strength plus d8 plus rage, if you're raging, which I forgot to mention. You guys are smart cookies, you don't need me to explain that to you, but I thought I'd better include it just because I was still under the misapprehension that rage damage didn't apply when you can actually make it apply in this scenario. So if we go full striking by using a bonus action for the piercing damage, even though the piercing attack is slightly less damage, it's starting to level out a little bit because it's getting the additional bonus from rage. No. So you can only make that additional attack with the Battle Rager armor if you're raging, and we've just established that you get the +2 on your unarmed attacks as well. So it's not leveling out, but at least you're getting more damage. I think that about covers it for the things that I was concerned about. Again, it's not really the worst, but there were a couple of things that I really felt did need to be clarified and addressed because I don't want to be giving out information that's not correct. Alright, with that out of the way, we can start doing some fun stuff and seeing if we can develop our grappling character further. So just as a quick reminder, we're using Battle Rager from Soul Coast Adventurer's Guide, and we're using Hunter Ranger with the additional canny ability which comes from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I'm just going to add in 1 extra level of Barbarian because 2 attacks. And our feats were Fighting Initiate, Tavern Brawler, and then we had a choice between Grappler or Crusher. But I'm going to go for Grappler because that's more of the character I want this to be. So if I understand this correctly now, I could potentially go into Battlemaster if I wanted to. Now the whole idea of this initial build was to not use Fighter and to not use Monk, but we're speaking purely hypothetically here. Could we substitute Hunter Ranger for Gloomstalker or Monster Slayer? So what are the specifics? Is that possible? Specifically, I'm looking at the Dread Ambusher and Slayer's Prey abilities. At the start of your first turn for each combat, your walking speed increases by 10 feet, which lasts until the end of that turn. If you take the attack action on that turn, you can make one additional weapon attack as part of that action. If that attack hits, the target takes an extra 1d8 damage of the weapon's damage type. So does this work? Well, yes, but actually, no. This is essentially the Divine Smite situation again. The 10-foot speed bonus is applicable, the extra attack is applicable, but the additional damage is not applicable. The same is also kind of true for the Blade Flourish ability from the College of Swords. You get the 10-foot bonus, but you don't get the ability to add extra damage. You can't spend a Bardic Inspiration dice to get more damage, and therefore, by extension, because the other part of the ability relies on it, I think you don't get the additional AC or the pushback from the other abilities. This is starting to get really complicated, and I don't think I fully understand it, and I wouldn't blame anyone else if they didn't either. But it has to be right, because that's what the big man said himself. Unarmed strikes are melee weapon attacks. Alright, what about Slayer's Prey? Starting at 3rd level, you can focus your eye on one foe, increasing the harm you inflict on it. As a bonus action, you designate one creature you can see within 60 feet of you as the target of this feature. The first time each turn you hit the target with a weapon attack, it takes an extra 1d6 damage from the weapon. This is a completely useless ability within the context of this character, because it procs immediately when you make a weapon attack, which we've been told now an unarmed strike can be. However, it adds an additional 1d6 damage of the weapon's type, which we know from Divine Smite, you can't add additional damage. I think the only way this could work for this Battle Rager is if you were already raging, and then you would need to take a bonus action on your second round to activate the ability, and then you would need to take the attack action on your third round, and then use your bonus action to make an armor spike attack before making any of your regular attack. It's just not worth thinking about. So does Monster Slayer work? Well, it's so freaking janky that it's just not worth the effort. But there is a way, I think, and essentially it boils down to, well, yes, but actually no. So for this character, the reason why things like Blade Flourish and Dread Ambusher don't work properly is because they're activated as part of your action, and we're using our action for making unarmed attacks. On the other hand, though, there are a few things we can do with Battle Rage armor that I didn't think about before, and now that I've had some context given to me, it's kind of dawned on me that we could, if we wanted to, dip into Paladin, and we'd be allowed to use Divine Smite with the Battle Rager armor bonus attack. Another minor revelation I had is we could use Savage Attacker for that same bonus attack. I don't think you'd ever want to waste a feat on 1d4 damage, but it is there. But more interestingly, we could use Poisoner. Battle Rager armor quite clearly says that the character can use it as a weapon, and with Poisoner you can coat a weapon as a bonus action with poison. That could potentially be fun, and I don't think it's too immersion breaking either, so Poisoner is definitely a possibility. We're at this point now where I'm trying to find something that will work with unarmed attacks, now that I understand that they are classed as melee weapon attacks, but regardless of that fact, it seems to be a bit of a struggle to find anything. But I am determined to find something else that works, that isn't monk and that isn't fighter. Enter the Whisper Bard, specifically with the Psychic Blades ability. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend one of your Bardic Inspiration to deal an extra 2d6 psychic damage to that target. You can do so only once per round on your turn. So once again, for clarification, the way I understand it, unarmed strikes are considered to be weapon attacks, but they are not considered to be weapons. And this ability adds damage even if it's not a weapon. Rules as written. So according to the way it's worded, this should be absolutely fine. And for an ability called Psychic Blades, I find that a little bit ironic. Now, I could add levels of Whisper Bard if I wanted to, but what interests me more is, could I substitute Ranger for anything? And I can substitute it for Whisper Bard if I want, because what I'm after is that expertise ability. And the fact that we've now discovered that Psychic Blades works with any kind of attack that our unarmed fighter is doing, it really does fit the bill. While the Psychic Blades ability works for us, Bardic Inspiration on its own is just such a functional group-based tool that it's really worth having. So knowing what I know now and looking back at the Battle Rager / Hunter Ranger character that I made, I'm actually pretty pleased with the way it turned out, and I don't think I would want to change it from what it is. The thing I enjoy about it is it's a mundane character, it's a skill-based character, it uses martial features, and it doesn't rely on magic, so it's something that I really quite like to experiment with, because so many classes have access to magical abilities. It's just nice to see something that can be effective and efficient without the backup of arcane or divine spellcasting. My choices for the class were right, they were just right for all the wrong reasons. Still, it was an interesting thought experiment, if nothing else, and I'm glad that I finally learnt something that I was unclear on before, because I don't really want to make mistakes going into the future. And it opens up so many new possibilities for me with future class builds that use unarmed strikes, so I'm kinda pleased that I was wrong. There are still things that I'm unsure about though, and I'm going to leave you guys with this question. If Battle Ranger armor gives you piercing damage when you grapple and is considered a weapon, and grapple is considered a special kind of melee attack, when you put them all together, is it still just a grapple, or is it, in effect, a melee weapon attack? Do you see what I mean? The armor is considered a weapon for this character, the grapple causes damage, the grapple is an attack. Is it a melee weapon attack? Perhaps not, but maybe? I don't know. I really am confused about that one. Anyone's got any insight on that? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like the video, leave a like, and if you're not already subscribed, why not consider doing so? And with all that being said, I will see you guys next time at the gaming table.